Welcome to Southern Sisters, where real talk meets rooted faith. We're your hosts, Megan, Lindsay, Courtney, and Evie, bringing sisterhood, laughter, and a whole lot of grace to the everyday chaos.
Welcome, fellas, Southern brothers. We all got finagled into doing one of these at our wife's request. When Megan first had the idea of, I'm going to put a podcast together, I thought, on top of homeschool and working and travel and photos, and I thought, go for it. I mean, if that's what makes you happy, that's perfect. So they thought that would be phenomenal for us to get on. So I'm glad that y'all were good enough to come on with me here. So we'll do a quick introduction first, and then we got an icebreaker question like the ladies do. So first, I'm Ben Boston. I'm married to the oldest daughter, Megan. We have got 5 kids. I am a chiropractor. I own my own small business. And in my spare time, I do DIY projects around the house. It's a lot of fun. And then let's go down the road. And Adam.
Yeah, so I'm Adam, Lindsay's husband, and I am father of 3. I'm sure you guys know that by now. Spill our lives out on this podcast. And let's see, I'm a financial advisor / retirement specialist.
Awesome. So I'm Josh. I am the sister's youngest brother, and I'm married to Evie. If you don't know who that is, she's the one that doesn't look like anybody else. So yeah, so that's Evie. That's my wife, and we've got 3 kids. And I own and operate a restoration business, AAA service company.
When Megan and I got married, Josh was about 7 years old.
That's right.
It was phenomenal. Love that kid. He would beat me in Super Mario every time. It drove me nuts.
I'm Jared. I'm Courtney's husband. I'm a financial advisor. I'm sure Courtney will tell you everything you need to know about me, but our life is basically wrapped around the kids and the twin girls that are 2 that are into everything.
Adorable.
Josh and I are going to retire by the time we're 50 with all these, retirement specialists around.
I sure
us.
hope so.
Yeah, financial
Golly.
guys. All right, so quick introduction. So we thought it was funny that the girls wanted us to do this, and then they left. So they're gone. So no direction. The door is wide open, right? So
Who thought it was funny? Because I did not think it was funny.
So our icebreaker question tonight. There's a couple of them. We're going to do 2 or 3 of them.
May or may not be altered
That's
from what
right.
the list
That's
they gave us.
Men take over.
Does anybody have the beep noise that we can
All right, so what's something about your wife that not many people know? What's something about your wife that not many people know? I'll go first. I've got one. So Megan's the oldest. So she had all the other siblings are like 4 and 5 years apart. So when we met and dated, everything was good. And then it got more serious and we got engaged. And then we were talking about like kids. And she said, I don't really like kids. I said, what? You don't really like kids? Like, we've been talking about having 4 kids. She's the oldest of 4. I'm number 3 of 4. And so it kind of took me back that I'm like, you don't like kids? And then she was like, well, I was the oldest. And then Lindsay was 4 years later. And Courtney was 5 years later. So I couldn't go out at summertime. Like I was always the babysitter at home. And so then there were horror stories about what Megan did to like keep the house clean, like lock the kids outside with, she put a glass of Kool-Aid or whatever it was, outside. But then she'd lock the door and she'd clean up. And like, you can't come inside till mom and dad come home because you're going to mess up the place. So the fact that she said, I don't really like kids, I was kind of like, ooh, well, okay. We'll get past that somehow.
Yeah.
It's funny that she has, 5 now?
And we have 5, yes. When we got to 4, there was another one waiting in the wings.
She got over that fear, I guess.
Right, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I'll go. Something that a lot of people don't know about Evie is she is a musician, so she knows how to play guitar.
What?
And she used to do violin.
Very nice.
Which is nuts to think about.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ever guessed that about Evie.
I mean, the guitar's bigger than her, but she knows how to play it. She sure enough knows how to play it.
That's right.
That's pretty cool.
I didn't know that. That's pretty neat.
I'll go. Something about Lindsay is that she is pretty techie. She always has to have like the most advanced, newest iPhone or whatever that comes
Latest and
out.
greatest.
Latest
I
and
know that.
greatest. Mac or whatever that she's got going on. She always has the latest and greatest on everything. So.
Yeah.
So phone, watch, iPad, Big Mac,
Monitor.
Big Mac.
She could care less about the iPads. Usually like the phone, Mac. She likes working off her MacBooks. So
Right, technology.
always just
It's great until it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she's calling me and, hey, can you fix this?
Hey, fix this for me. That's funny.
Well, Courtney kind of likes to tell everything about herself, so it's kind of hard for me to really come up with anything. But I'll probably get in trouble with sharing this, but I don't really care.
Unveil.
So, she,
That's funny.
most people know how big of a neat freak she is and how much of one that I prefer not to be. She wants the house to look like good housekeeping, and I want the house to look like it's being lived in, within reason. The one place that does not exist is in her car.
Oh,
She will let that car get so filthy, it
Right.
is ridiculous. So part of the reason why I'm saying this is maybe it'll motivate her to actually keep the car clean and not let the kids trash it. Because I'm the one who's always coming back behind it.
Exchange
go.
it for a room in the house.
next time the kids get the older kids, like, all right, grab a Kroger bag, head up to the car.
Literally a few weeks ago found a banana that was peeled. Not the banana peel, but the banana stuffed between two seat cushions in the back.
Gross.
So it's dried then.
No, it wasn't dry.
Like
You would have thought. You would have thought.
dehydrated.
Well, it's like,
was
what,
too
90
bad.
degrees here now?
Yeah.
It was a good thing it wasn't that hot yet.
Right. All right, another one. What is your worst DIY project you've started and deeply regretted halfway through? What is your favorite DIY project you started and deeply regretted halfway through?
So while Adam filters through his mini, he's over here sweating and
Adam has
his blood
done some-
pressure's gone
yes.
up since you asked that.
When Adam brought home 15 yards of turf from a local football field,
That was a bad
Yeah.
one. Miscalculated that one.
I was like, whoa, snap, how did you do that? Well, I called Josh and his four-wheeler and his trailer.
That was
and
still bad.
I remember
I
that.
think it was chock full still of all the.
We were
All
trying to
the,
haul that off the truck. My foot was going whoa, whoa. I was like, man, this is gonna be close.
We ended up having to cut that down.
Yeah,
That was miscalculated.
Sorry, that wasn't my DIY, but I was like, that was some pretty
that was a
big ones.
memory. I
Pretty
forgot
big
about
ones,
that.
right?
You would have needed my trailer for that.
I forgot
one.
about that. That's crazy. No, one I had was Evie is making sure it's level and making sure it's very precise because she wants everything perfect, which I'm far from. So I think one of the worst DIYs that I did was probably Brody's room the first time. So we kind of did like a shiplap wall, but it had all the squares.
Okay.
And so I had to make sure that all the and then we had, the room was not 100% perfect because
Right.
it's not like a 10 by 8 wall. It's like
right.
10 and 0.3
That's right.
or like 8 and
That's
some
right.
change
Plus
or
the corners
7.
aren't
Yeah, and the
straight.
corners aren't straight. And so,
Right.
yeah, that was miserable.
Hey, can you come eyeball this? Like, where exactly does that?
Well, it was like every piece I had to bring out my level to convince her and myself that it was level. And then I was like, all right, let me try to figure that. I had to take the wood off and put it back on like 5 or 6 times. We finally got it, then we moved. That was great.
Dang it. That always happens.
Yeah.
You spend the time, the effort, get it just right, then they're like, I think we should move.
Yeah, that was a hard one. So now we're going to try to do Lennon's room. I was like, well, hopefully I've learned something from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was rough.
I don't really have any projects that I regret or anything like that because Courtney doesn't really care for the most part. Everything she wants revolves around like animals or chickens or dogs or whatever, and that's just a hard no for me.
Yeah.
But she's complained a lot about the greenhouse that I've built,
Right.
mainly because of the amount of time that it took, rather than what we will get from it at a later point in time. So I actually called her out on that. I'm like, no, you can't just like complain about it being built, then
Right.
think it's the best thing ever once everything,
That's
and
funny.
enjoy it after the fact. You got to at least be grateful for the work. But that did take a lot longer than what I thought it would.
It's like one of those
Nice.
things where like, you enjoy that tomato? Remember?
Exactly.
This is what I was talking about.
You can't have it, tomato. You are grateful.
Absolutely. my DIY project, I got halfway through and I was like, this is so stupid. COVID happens. Everybody, all the kids are at home. And Megan says, I really feel like we should get some chickens. And I'm like, chickens? We don't live in the country. We live in a subdivision. Like, what's the rules? So there's a lady that lives around the corner. She's phenomenal. She's, grew up in Austria and had very little, so she's excellent. And she had chickens, and so she asked, we call her the chicken lady. Asked the chicken lady, what's the rules in Germantown, in where we live? And so she was like, you can only have this many, and you can't have roosters, and your chicken coop has to be on wheels, and gave us all the parameters. And then she's like, well, she said this and this and this and this. So I sat on that for a long time because she was like, I want you to build me one. And I'm like, build you one? Oh, gosh. So I was generally perusing through YouTube and trying to find, like, what's the easiest? I'm trying to make this easy.
It took you a minute to build that one.
I want to make it easy on myself. So all the ones had the little trays that pull out, and I'm like, if you have 7, I think you have 7 chickens in where we live in the subdivision. And I'm like, 7 chickens, that's a lot of poop. Like, this little tray. And so I ended up building it. Well, first I had to get the wood. I'm like, wood's going up. It's crazy expensive.
It was expensive.
So, yeah. So at my office, they were tearing down the back fence because it was old or holy or something. So he just cut it up in sections and would just put it by the street. So I'm like, hey, what are you doing with this stuff? Oh, I've got 2 more days here. Take as many sections as you want. So I did that and got a ton of wood, the big posts. And then the only thing I really had to buy was the chicken wire and some of like the siding. And so I think I took my 2 weeks for the plans, and then slowly, I built the base because I built it 3 feet off the ground, and then I built the walls, and then I ran out of 2x4s, so I had to go dumpster diving at some construction sites and back out all the nails and that kind of. But it took me forever. So halfway through, I didn't have the roof on it yet because that's just tin, and I think it rained, and are you ever going to finish that? And I'm like, no, I don't want chickens. No. So it's just like the dog.
When your heart's not in it, it takes so much longer.
So, I can move it if I want to, but that was my one DIY. I'm like, this is awful. Having chickens and getting eggs every day, that's cool, but not the feed and the watering.
The process of it.
Yeah. Kick me, please. That's how I feel about it. But anyway, all right, so a little bit, let's get into our subject matter for today. This episode is Father's Day, so it's all about fathers, and we all 4 of us grew up in and around Memphis, and it's phenomenal that we all married Memphis gals or hereabouts, and we've all landed pretty much close to where we grew up. And so, the topic today is, who is your hero? And a couple thoughts. What is a lesson that shaped that person into a hero for you, or a moment that someone else has become a hero to you, or a reflection, or something that led you and your family walking in faith as pertained to that individual. So this episode is all about our heroes as dads. So any thoughts, questions? Who is one of your heroes, and what happened to have them shape that?
Yeah, I'll go.
Cool.
So, my dad's my hero, just because he's always been there for me. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of just taught me, right from wrong and do's and don'ts. I think one of the moments that, shaped him into a hero, less of a dad and more of a figure, just someone looking up to, was a moment that I lost my baseball glove back on country air a long time ago. There was just a time where I lost my glove, and me and you were playing in the yard. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah,
but we were playing in the yard, and we sat it down and went to bed, just went inside, and I came back outside the next day and it was gone. And then we just kind of looked everywhere, and my dad was just like, well, have you prayed? And I was like, no. And so we ended up in the garage, and we prayed for it, and I walked right to it.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was crazy because it was on the back part of our property that we had. And so I found it. I was like, yeah, Dad. I was like, we can go. And I had a tryout the next day, so I needed it. And it was cool. So then once I found it, he was just like, all right, you know what we got to do now? I was like, yeah, we got to get ready to go. And, you know, I got to finish practicing and, you know, eat another PB&J and let's go. You know, he's like, no, we need to give thanks to Heavenly Father, which was really cool. So that was pretty neat. Just showing this, him having enough faith to teach me that, hey, whenever we are, you know, lost or not only ourselves, but our belongings or whatever is materialistic at the time that is important to us, you know, if it's lost or if we are needing help from something, we just rely on Heavenly Father, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So that kind of shaped him less of my dad, always my dad, but less of my dad, but more of a spiritual father figure / you know, hero, always looking out for me and teaching me that.
I remember one time, Josh, I think Mom had an Audi. And this was it wasn't the country, but, you know, it had a little bit of land.
Yeah.
And I think you were like 15, so you had your permit, and man, they let you like jump in the car and drive down to the end of the street kind of thing. And so I think you were pulling back in the garage and you scratched the bumper or something. And
They came back.
You remember that?
Yeah, they went on a 2-mile walk, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like drive the car around the cove before they get back. And so like I saw them coming, I went, and I came to smack the mirror.
And I remember thinking like, I was like kind of mouth hanging open. I'm like, what's Dad gonna do?
Yeah.
And he didn't get mad. He didn't yell or scream. He was just like, what happened?
Yeah.
He was like, well, I did this, and you know, kind of. And he's like, did you learn a lesson? And he's like, Yep. Never do that again. Yeah.
Don't get caught.
I was thinking like, he is gonna
kill me.
Right? He's not gonna be able. Josh is gonna be able to sit down for a week, right?
Yeah.
A couple times like that, he just surprised me. I remember another time.
I think the girls at that point would just say, he's the golden child.
That's right.
Absolutely.
He's the boy.
Right.
They wore him down enough to where he's just like, well, it's okay. Whatever. Yeah.
One other thing, we were playing, I think we were playing volleyball or basketball in the pool at that same house. And I don't know, I think you dunked over him or something. And like you elbowed him in the mouth or busted his lip, you know. And I was waiting for the explosion and like just the, you know. And he was just like very like, he was biting on it, you know, so trying not to, I don't know, say whatever. And so he just kind of got out, and you're like, Dad, are you okay? And he didn't say anything, walked in the house and grabbed some ice. And I was like, that's another time I thought,
You're dead.
He's going to get it. He's going to get it.
Silence from Steve Kennedy's not good.
Right. Very, very funny. Very funny.
Yeah.
Good times.
Absolutely.
So mine would be, again, my dad.
Sweet.
Old Rod.
Rod Blaine. He was actually with me today putting up a fence. We're talking about DIY projects.
He's regretting it already.
Yeah, he's the one. He's regretting it.
Yeah.
He was walking a little slow at the end.
Right.
He's sweating right through
He's
his
like,
hat,
I
man.
wish. He might not be walking tomorrow.
Like a
But
tired
anyways,
man.
what made him my hero is the reason we're not originally from Memphis or even Tennessee. We're originally from Utah. And what moved us out here was my dad's job so he was a seminary teacher out there, and then he accepted to be a church educational system director out here, where he was in charge of institutes and training the seminary teachers for release time seminary. So that what brought us out here was only supposed to be 5 years or so, and then 9/11 happened, and just church stopped moving people, and we ended up staying here. And to this day, I mean, we're 30 years now here. So yes, I consider Memphis my home. But him being such a spiritual giant, I mean, teaching me about the scriptures and teaching how he made them come alive, and teaching me about the gospel, and really derive a lot of my testimony, especially during those early years, from him. And then, of course, gaining my own about testimony of the Savior and the atonement and what that really means within my own life. And then seeing how he treated my mom and treated us as 6 kids. I mean, there's 6 of us under 5.
Oh,
so,
Jared,
2 sets of twins.
had to beat.
So I mean, like,
And believe
I'm
me,
sure
that's a competition I will happily lose every day of the week.
if you look at him, he's completely bald, and he tells them every day that we caused that to happen. But
Absolutely.
really didn't really
The difference
raise his voice that much to us, and
He was
everything.
one of those 5, right? You know, I'm on the other end of it.
Yeah.
I'm one of those 6.
That's crazy.
But I mean, for real, he's my hero.
He was a fabulous teacher. So when I graduated from high school, I had a semester and went to Memphis for a semester, and they had Institute actually down on, well, it was like right across the railroad tracks on Southern, but it was above Lindor's Flowers. And I remember thinking, man, all of my buddies, they were a year older than me, and so they were already gone on the mission. So I was like, I graduated, and I was like, well, I'll go to Institute. My dad was the singles ward branch president.
That's when he was branch president.
Yeah, and so he's like, "Oh, you need to go to Institute." I'm like, "Okay, I'm already down there." So, and Brother Blaine always made it. It was always insightful. He full of information. Kind of, he gave you the background and the context.
You could tell he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, it was great.
He
And
was
I was
awesome.
always like,
Yeah.
"All right, I'll stay another hour or so, to go to Institute." So it was
He made
phenomenal.
time pass by fast.
Yep.
Which means you're a good teacher.
Yep.
Yeah, phenomenal teacher.
So mine, of course, my dad as well. But Bob Boston, he was a funny guy. He's the youngest of 6 kids, and so his closest sibling was like 8 years or 5 years from him. So he grew up.
He was a big time
Yeah, he laughs and jokes, but he was real good at. He would tell me things, and it was like Bob Boston pearls of wisdom. And sometimes I wouldn't know. And like I remember him saying, "There are certain doors that you need to leave shut." And I was like, "What the crap are you talking about?"
like my bedroom door.
Right? Like, oh, you mean like because my 2 sisters are next door, I need to shut my door? Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but it was, I didn't really understand what he meant until one of his other pearls of wisdom was, dating girls should be like Baskin Robbins. And I was like, what the crap does that mean? 31 flavors. And I was like, well, what, I'm 13. What does that mean?
Sample them all.
That's right. That was his, like, I remember I liked one girl, and she lived a couple subdivisions away. So I'd tell my mom and dad, hey, I'm going to ride down to Deermont Park and we'll watch baseball, which I would do. I'd ride to Deermont Park. And I'd watch baseball. Then I would ride over and we'd walk around the neighborhood and stuff. And so somebody would always see me and they'd say the next day, hey, I saw your boy, walking, holding hands with. And so he'd come back and, oh, how was the game last night? Oh, it was great. I played. Yeah. Oh, I understand that you went and saw, what's her name? And I was like,
Absolutely.
find out about that. So then we had the 31 flavors. Like, you don't need to pair off. When you're dating, when you're 16, when you're 18, even when you're back from a mission, date them all. You just have fun. And then you can pick like, oh, I like this about her. And I like this about her. And I was like, well, what if I like vanilla? I like, whatever kind. And I only like that kind. And she's like, well, you just need to broaden your horizon. So he was always giving me pearls of wisdom that I didn't really understand then, but later on in life, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it was all for my own protection, but he didn't want to come out and say, don't do this, because what are you going to naturally, you're a curious kid, and you're like, okay,
That sounds
try
great.
that, right? Right? So
I will try that.
yeah, but I grew up with stories of Southern California and his mission, and kind of the story of how him and my mom met. My mom's a convert to the church, and he met in Institute here in Memphis, and they did a couple years here, and they transferred out to BYU. But he made it interesting, teaching of the gospel, and he really didn't. I mean, he'd come down on you when he needed to, but it was more like free flowing, like. I'd mess up, and as long as I understood what I did wrong, there was really not a lot of whole punishment going on. But a couple times he'd come down on you hard, but it was good.
When you ask the question about heroes and everything, it's obviously your dad always comes to mind, and he's definitely the one that I talk to the most and
Absolutely
reach out to, talk to him almost every day and everything. I wouldn't change that, but hero for me, when I think of a hero, I almost think of somebody that I try to emulate in every facet. And I've never really picked one person out that way because we all have weaknesses and we all have things that we're trying to overcome or work through.
for sure.
And so really it's more situational for me because I played basketball through college and spent a lot of time with a lot of different coaches and my parents and everybody else. And one of the things that I've kind of learned over the years is to see the good in people. And by doing that, it's allowed me to pick up on the things that they're really good at that I want to emulate. So I really don't like being around negative people because the people that are really, really negative oftentimes are the ones that are not, they're seeing the bad in people first.
Right.
And I want to see the good in people. And
if you want to soar with the eagles, you don't hang out with the chickens.
Which is one of the reasons why I'm a little bit more reserved, because I'll kind of watch and kind of pick up on what people are doing and what they're, just kind of get a general idea of who they are.
Yeah.
You get me in a one-on-one session, I might talk your ear off. But if I'm in a big group, you might be like, this dude never talks. But I've had coaches that have obviously, I played for Calipari at the University of Memphis, and he was always really good about the way he treated people, regardless of what their profession was. He would actually bring in the janitor that's cleaning our locker rooms and bring him in and make sure he introduced him to all of us, and we made sure he knew what their names were and acknowledged them and talked to them and everything. It didn't matter who you were.
That's cool.
There's value that you bring. And so really, I have so many that I could just really talk about, but I really just tried to find the good things in people and the ones that, and when I find those things and those things that I want to emulate, then really that they kind of become a small hero in my life because I got a bunch of little different ones that kind of bring them all together kind of thing.
That's awesome.
If that makes sense.
That's really cool.
That's great.
That's really cool.
All right, fellas, let's kind of bring this all together. What's the hardest part of fatherhood people don't talk about? If we're talking about fatherhood.
Don't talk about.
What's the hardest part of fatherhood?
We don't talk about it.
Right? That we don't talk about. For me, so we've got 5 kids. Our oldest is 18, almost 19. Our youngest is 8. And the hardest part that people don't talk about is how you have to cater, or you have to personalize the discipline, how you interact to each kid. So for instance, our number 2 is a boy, and me and him are like oil and water. Like everything that I look at a situation, I'm like, hey, you should do this. And he's like, nah, I think I'm going to do this. And just how he does things, it's much better for Megan to deal with him because we just kind of clash and he kind of drives me nuts sometimes. But on the flip side is that our youngest, Bennett, is more independent. And since he's the youngest, he's only 8, but he's going on 21. And so it's harder for her to deal with him because she's around him all day. We pulled him out a year ago of school, so she's around him all day, and he just doesn't listen sometimes. He's just kind of hard-headed, and I told him 3 times, and then after 3 times, we took a time out, and I got in his face, and, I was like, listen to me, I've asked you to do this 3 times, the whole 9 yards. And then when I come home, Bennett was awful today, he did this and this and this and this, and I was like, well, tell me about it. So recently, last Friday, he was awful. He was pitching temper tantrum, like literally laying on the floor, kicking and screaming. So anyway, it was just not a good day. And so I'm like, what is the matter? Like I took him out to eat. We got a sandwich. I was just sitting. I was like, let me treat him like he's 21. Like, what's going on, man? Like, I heard this and this and this and this happened. What are you doing? She just made me mad. So we talked about that. I'm like, well, what can you do to... So it was kind of like reverse engineering.
Use my words.
That's right. So the individual, just situational. But I think that's the hardest part is each kid has its own personality and you discipline them, you connect with them, you make them feel special in different ways. And so you got to remember man, I got 5 of these kids. I got to treat him this way, and it's
Lindsay and I
that's
call
tough.
that. Yeah, Lindsay and I call that our Jedi mind trick for each child.
That's right.
They all have a different one.
That's right. Jedi
She's
mind
better at it
tricking.
than I am for sure.
Right.
I just have the one trick.
Right.
But she's always like, I gotta go do this. No, that's pretty hard. I was like, but I'm not you.
Right. Yep.
So for me, my situation's a little bit different than the 3 of yours. You know, I think when you envision growing up, getting married, you're like, oh, I'll get married young and we'll have kids, blah, blah, everything, happily ever after. Well, I was 33 when I got married, which, depending on who you ask, might be
bad.
considered young, but, you know, from a
Right.
church perspective, definitely not young.
Yeah, church,
And-
old, outside normal world,
Yeah.
totally normal.
Exactly. And so we, and then of course my wife had 2 kids already from her first marriage, and so I was a insta dad, and then we've added 3 more to the group, and each child obviously presents its own challenges, but then when you throw in a mixed family that way, it obviously brings a lot more challenges. There's always an adjustment period when them getting ready to leave, when them coming home. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's anything but.
Right.
And then because they're not there all the time, they don't necessarily see how you're always interacting or how you're disciplining the other children or life's not fair. Or just the whole,
Right.
That's hard.
That dynamic.
yeah, it's just quite a bit different. So for us, it's a lot more. It can take a lot more time, I guess, than it might otherwise if all 5 kids were just between Courtney and I. But because it's a blended family, it just throws all kinds of curveballs in that you think you're starting to get it down, and it's
Right.
like you couldn't be further from the truth.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
That's right.
True.
Like, my hardest thing in our family, and for me being a dad, is just when to show compassion versus when to be a disciplinary versus when I should have patience.
Right.
You know? So it was like the other night, we're in a new house, and so there's times where it's just like they'll get out of bed because they're not used to it, you know? But I'm like, you've been sleeping for 7 years. Like, you know what you're doing. Go back to bed.
Right.
Go to sleep, you know? But then there's other nights where it's just like, you know, like Brody, like the other day, he was just having a rough day. And like mine and his song and mine and Jade's song is "You Are My Sunshine." Is what I'll sing to them whenever they go to bed.
Right.
And so, you know, he was a turd all day, you know, just like stealing snacks from Jade, you know, pushing Lennon down,
Right.
you know. And so he comes up to the top of the stairs. He goes, "Dad, can you sing Sunshine to me?" And I was like, "No, go to bed." No, I'm sick of you.
Time out. Yes.
So I'm like going to my
Pastime.
room, and I'm
Right.
like, "How many times are you really gonna say, hey, come
Right.
sing to me?" So I went upstairs, like, "Dude, I'm sorry,"
Right.
you know. So I sang it to him,
sweet.
you know. And there's other times where we're just like, "All right, you got to get this down,"
Right.
you know. And it's really hard for, I don't know, like I can tell a huge difference from as I'm a dad of Lennon versus Jade.
Right.
It's like if I had a do-over, I would do it all over again. Just
Right.
because, like, with her, I made her grow up too fast, I feel like, in some aspects, just because it's like,
Right.
some of this is common sense, and you should know this by now, but she's like 5,
Right.
you know? But, like, she's smart, and so it's just like, you know, she's very book smart, and then there's some times where I'm just like,
Wait a minute.
did you think?
You didn't
like,
catch that?
what are you doing? You know?
Right.
Just the what are you doing moments is just, you know, I've got to catch myself, you know, trying to be more of a teacher rather than a criticizer.
Right.
You know, because they have the whole world to criticize them.
Right.
You know, which is hard enough. So just trying to make our home a more compassionate, like when to say no versus, you know, okay, this is fine.
Well,
you
the
know?
exposure to that criticism is way more available than it ever has been.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Everybody's
So
got an
it's
opinion.
always been it's always been bad, but just with all the electronics and
Yeah.
all the social media and everything, just how quickly you can get access to it.
Well, just
you
see,
can't really shield
you
them
see
from
every
it.
video. It's just like, and I know the negative comments are coming, so it's like
right.
everybody's got their own opinion, you know. So it's if I can just take a step back and give them more uplifting criticism, I guess you could say, and
Absolutely.
constructive rather than, hey, well, how about we do this?
Yep.
You know, hey, how about you don't put your kid down or your sister
Right.
down and
Right.
let's work this out, you know.
Teaching. Yep. My temper is short. Patience is not a virtue that I have. Like, I'll ask him once, and then I'll remind him. And then by the third time, I'm like, time out, look at my face, put down what you're doing. Like, I've asked you 3 times, why aren't you doing this?
I'm very much the 3-strike method.
And then, by 4 or 5, I'm like, get yourself.
See, like,
down here.
Evie never hears the first 2. You know?
I always get in trouble. Why are you yelling at the kid? I just told him 3 times.
You are so mean.
Hey,
Quit.
Brody. Hey, Brody,
down.
clean up your stuff. Okay. Hey, Brody, clean up your stuff. If you don't clean up your stuff right now, you know, Evie's like, quit getting on there.
Yelling at that kid.
I'm like, oh.
Kate, we had Mr. Gunny Sack, and that came out of, I don't know, some like joy school, you know, if you don't clean up your
we
stuff.
know that,
Yeah. And our gunny sack was like a black plastic trash bag. And so and I found that when I'd ask Kate, she didn't do it. I would just go into her room and start picking everything. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm cleaning up your stuff. Is that Mr. Gunny Sack? Because she knew if it goes into Mr. Gunny Sack,
Yeah.
she's not going to get it. She has to earn her stuff back out of Mr. Gunny Sack. And
Yeah.
so, no.
Yeah,
You know?
I kind of do the same thing. I'll do 1, 2, 3, and if you don't do it, I throw it away.
Right.
And then Evie's like, "Why are you throwing away all their stuff?" And I was like, "They don't care about it.
I don't care.
If they don't care, I don't care." You know?
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing.
So we have a Chloe. She just turned 13, and there's a rule in my house. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but the house is only big enough for one attitude, and that's mine. Everybody else is chickens at the door. And so,
I love it.
and so we obviously we got a 13-year-old, and
man.
just all the
That's tough.
challenges of being a teenager these days, whatever. And it kind of got pretty high today, and so we're eating dinner, and she's complaining tacos are spicy, and just all this random crap, and I straight up told her, I was like, I don't like your attitude. You need to go outside and check it at the door. And before you come back in, I was like, you better not have one when you come back in. So they've been warned before they ever get home. So it's always easier to be patient with other people, but the ones that live with you and everything else, those are the ones that are the hardest for sure.
Tacos are spicy good. Spicy.
That's funny.
Mine's probably a combination of a lot of what you guys have said as well. I mean, my wife says I always have more patience for other people than those that live under my own roof. And sometimes that's probably pretty true for the most part. I think that's probably the hardest thing as a dad, because we come in contact with so many people as we're all...
I've been patient all day.
All 4 of us are business owners, essentially. So we're running our own businesses. We're coming across all these people, and plus church callings and so forth. So and by the time we get home, sometimes we have the least patience for the ones that we actually love. And so sometimes it's that I would say that'd be the most difficult thing about a dad.
Right.
I guess you could say.
Yeah,
So sometimes we let those tempers boil over.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying we strike the kids or anything, but there's a lot of yelling sometimes.
Raised voices.
Raised
Yelling
voices,
might
there
be
you
a
go.
stretch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Relax.
It's
Loud
just a dad
enough.
voice. It's a
I
dad
just come
voice.
from-
It's
yeah,
a dad
yeah,
voice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Lindsay's like,
awesome.
stop yelling. I was like, you have not heard yelling yet.
That's right.
My favorite thing to do when Courtney accuses me of something is to say challenge accepted.
Right.
Be careful what you accuse me of, because you might just get it.
That's too funny. All right. In closing, what do you hope that your own kids will say about you one day?
That I wasn't mean enough.
I wish you were more of a
You were
disciplinary.
just so nice. We just needed some like
More of a
strictness.
douche, Dad.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
For me, I don't know it. I don't want to kind of write the script on what they think about me or what they say about me, as much as I want them to know that they can always come to me later.
Safe place.
So regardless of what they're experiencing or what they're going through, good, bad, or indifferent, as long as they know that I'm always there and will be there, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
Likewise
That's
for
good.
me. I mean, I want them to call me in a pinch if something's come up, and know that I'm always going to be there to show up. I mean, my dad's doing that for me. At 70 years still now. I mean, he's helped me put the fence together. So
Right.
wish to still be there for them doing that, and they feel comfortable enough to call me. I would say that. Sure.
Megan's always asking, what do we need to do with our kids to have them want to come live by us when they get married and start having kids? And so we're like, well, what does that look like? Like, what kind of relationship do you need to have? And it's, do they feel comfortable? Is it a safe place? Will they come ask you? I hope my boys, when we will, if they have questions with whatever in life and with kids and dating or whatever it is, that if they don't know or it's unfamiliar, that they'll that you will have a good enough relationship where it's a safe place they can come ask and they won't feel either judged or that's what we just a safe place to go to come and not what does Dad say? Shut the door.
Yeah.
The back door stays open.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think what I want my kids to remember is just one, that they're loved. Mm-hmm. And that just a combination of just kind of what you guys said is just that it's judge free. Just come to me. Just let me help you.
Yep.
What if you're in a pinch, financially or spiritually or whatever, and I also want them to have that feeling or just that remembrance of that my dad is a man of God, and that the relationship with the Heavenly Father is very important.
Absolutely.
So that, just make sure that God was in the home and that we were loved and, that they can always come to me about stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
That's great.
Well, thank y'all for tuning in. If you have any other questions that you want us to answer, drop a like and a comment in the bottom. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there. Wives, remember, June 15th is the day. And our very own Uncle Josh, that's his birthday as well.
Absolutely. So it's a good Father's Day.
Happy birthday. Happy Father's Day.
Double dipping.
Absolutely. That's
Extra
great.
presents that day, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Are
great.
you getting multiple presents, or are you just getting one big one?
No, it's got to be separate.
Yeah.
Gotta go big. Go big or go home.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
get the two small things. Get the one big thing.
The big
Right.
one, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
It'll be awesome.
Well, thank y'all for tuning in, and until next time, keep striving. Perfect. Oh boy, you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Ready as I'm gonna be.
What's something about your wife that not many people know? You want to do that one or no?
Sure.
Or you want to do one of the other ones?
Yeah, we can do that
They
one.
can't defend themselves. That's going to be tough.
It's going to be awesome.
Or they just edit that whole
Something
segment
about my
out.
wife that most people don't know. That's
gonna
kind of
have-
hard for me because my wife tells everybody everything.
They're on everything.
My wife
My wife
is...
is very honest, and everything she tells everyone.
Megan hates this.
And if you're not sure, just go read her book.
Right.
Right. Okay, so intro, we'll do, or the beginning, a little intro. What's one thing, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
And then a quick something about your wife, and then we'll go into,
Yeah, my wife has an only feed. She just doesn't know it.
she has a what?
Only feed. She just doesn't know it. So I pay for all her stuff.
Pays for a Sephora.
Right. Yeah.
I pull those covers back.
All her
and-
Gucci.
I don't know, this is going to be awful. Maybe not.
That's right. They'll have another podcast where they correct everything.
They'll be like, we're not going to play this one. We're just going to do the next one and just move it up.
Yeah.
Taking a
It'd
break
go
for Father's Day.
episode. It's supposed to be episode 20 or whatever. Skip 20 and go to 21.
What happened to that one?
Where's episode 20?
In light of Father's Day.
Thanks for hanging out with us here at Southern Sisters. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to follow us on social media for more laughs, heart-to-hearts, and behind-the-scenes real life. We'd be thrilled if you subscribed to the podcast, left us a review, and shared it with your friends, because life's always better when we're on this journey together. Until next time, keep striving, keep laughing, and keep showing up. We'll see you all back here real soon.